Hello everyone, my name is Xiaodong He. Yeah, university require mask, but today we have no student here, so I just try to take off my mask and then get for a better video recording. So welcome to this material characterization lab. And for this tour, we actually have two labs. One is for the sample preparation, the other is sample characterization. So first thing is the safety. So you are seeing on the sheet there's a bunch of safety cautions. We have some flammable solvent and chemical waste to deal with. So if there's any emergency happen, there's a contact information on this sheet. So please follow me into this lab. And first of all, you will see on the corner, you will see first aid kit. Since we do deal with a little bit of glassware, sometimes if a student cut a finger, you want to use that first aid kit. And also we deal with not a lot, but some chemicals. Then we keep the safety data sheet, MSD sheet, in that folder in case we need an emergency treatment. And then for some of the operation, we need a student to wear the goggles and the gloves. So and then let's go over each of the small device for the sample preparation. So the first one is called a polisher. We polish the sample like rocks and then get a very flat surface for some imaging in the other characterization lab. And then we have a couple of balance. So for weighing those samples, this little device is called a micronized mill. So we ground the solid sample into very fine particle, maybe down to 1 to 5 micrometer. So this unit need a bit of caution. Students are required to wear the very thick safety gloves, because this is called a flux. We do a high temperature treatment. So this is to make a sample like melt your rock sample into a glass. So when you deal with the sample, you can use this tongue and those safety gloves. That corner is just a conventional oven. So down to this side, we have a sample. We call it a press. So you see the powder sample, the solid powder sample will be loaded into this die and get pressed into a pellet like this. So that is also a preparation for the other machine. We also have a ball mill. So that ball mill is also for grounding solid sample into powder, and then for the sample preparation, either this one or the other machine. And there will be a last piece of sample preparation equipment called a shatter box. That's pretty similar to the ball mill, but dealing with a larger sample and a larger sample size. So the bigger rocks can be grounded into powder more efficiently than the ball mill. I think that's everything we have in this sample preparation lab. And then please follow me into the sample analysis lab, where we call the characterization lab. So very first thing you will see we have the very similar safety information card, and then you will find that's very similar to the other one, but you will see the difference is there is a X-ray radiation, and that box is a check because we have a bunch of X-ray machine here. So first of all, you will see we have a fire distinguisher in case we have some fire in both labs. They are kind of close each other. We also have a safety data sheet. So and dealing with those chemical safety. and you will see there's a sign, big caution for the X-ray radiation, because this is the X-ray machine. We have an X-ray tube in the machine. So I will introduce more when we get closer to that machine. So a major hazardous source in this lab is X-ray radiation. You will see this big sign, and then there's a light on the top of that machine. When the X-ray is on, that is a big alarm. And then you will see there is a monitor, and then there's a pair of monitor. One is on the machine, another one is on my body. I always wear it when I'm in this lab. So what this to monitor does is to measure the radiation level. So the UND safety office will send a pair of these every month, and then they measure it and generate a report annually. So they tell us if we are exposed overdose of the radiation. So that is a major major hazardous in this lab. And then for operation, this machine called XRD, X-ray diffractometer. So basically, you measure the solid sample and then tell you what the crystalline structure is. So if you have a rocks, they can tell you what a mineral is, like it's a quartz or pyrite, those kind of things. So yeah, again, if there's any emergence, so we get check the safety procedure in the safety sheet and the machine manuals. And then you will see against the wall there's a rack for the gas bottle, and those bottles are always fastened there when it's in use. Those bottles are for this machine. This is a scanning electron microscope. So this is a relatively new machine. We have a high resolution field emission SEM, so you can go the resolution down to nanometer, 1 nanometer. You see some students are measuring rocks sample right over here, and then the uniqueness about this machine is you can do both imaging, or so you can test the chemical composition of those rocks. And then you can tell what a mineral is, and what is the distribution of those chemicals. So that is for geological sample. So this sample chamber is pretty large. So this kind of uniqueness of this machine. Okay, and then back here we have another microscope. It's pretty similar to the previous one, and also a scanning electron microscope. It's a very old, kind of old unit, but it's still working very well. So the difference between these two is this one have a much powerful software, so the computer can control the stage, automatically move around the sample. So you can take the image, hundreds of images automatically, and then do the chemical analysis, so generate a report. And then on the left side you will see there's an optical microscope. This is a very specialized microscope for petroleum engineer. So it basically measure the what they call the bakelite reflectance. So you have a bunch of different light source and measure the reflectance, so you can tell the maturity of certain rocks, if it's worsened, drilling, or how old of those carriages. So let's move to other end of the lab. We have another machine called nano indenter, or you can have a name nanomechanical testing instrument. So basically, what this machine does is tell the hardness or Young's modulus of a solid sample. So you don't need a very big sample size because they can make an indent at a micrometer size. So that's for that. So mostly the students using this are from petroleum engineer or mechanical engineer who dealing with metals or rocks. And on this corner, we have called NMR, geological NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance. So you will see there is a big sign for the strong magnetic field because we have a big magnet inside. That's why it's called NMR. So basically, this machine. So when students run this machine, you are required to remove any stuff from your pocket, like your credit card or your cell phone, those kind of things. Otherwise, you might release your information. So for this machine, it's basically tell you. This is called a core block. Tell you rocks, if the rocks has enough oil or in the rock, if it's worse draining, and then to measure the porosity and other information from the rock. So very specialized machine for petroleum engineering. So okay, then we will move to the last equipment right over here. That is also an X-ray generator machine. We call it XRF, X-ray fluorescence spectrometer. Some of the sample we just prepared in the other lab. You will see like the palette that's put in this lab. So basically, what this machine tell you is to measure the chemical conversion, the element conversion of a solid sample is if it's iron, if it's some other metals, so it can tell you those. So also you will notice they have the two gas bottles. One we mostly use we call it P10, which is 90% of argon, 10% of methane for that machine. Sometimes we use halogen, so that's for the detector. So both, again, must be phosphate in the test. So that's everything about this lab. Thank you again for doing this evaluation. So if you have any question, please contact me. Thank you.